Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Online Warriors podcast, and welcome to the lovely month of December, the 12th month of the year. One of my favorite numbers, number 12. I am Illeagle 86, and I'm joined as ever by my fantastic and debonair co-hosts, Nerdbomber and Techtic. Nerdbomber, what's the reason for the season?
Friendship and family.
Okay.
Breezin'.
Friendship and family. Techtic says breezin'.
Breezin' for the
Is the
season.
reason for the breezing for the season. Okay, so to do with that information what you will. Big episode today, guys. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for rolling in. There is some Mass Effect news.
Yes.
So naturally, we're talking about it. That's just kind of how things go around here. Also, some Rock Band / Harmonix news and some DC Universe video gaming news. Very video game centric episode today, although the Mass Effect thing is a little bit more TV related, which is a bit of a spoily. But before we dive in, how are you guys handling the transition into colder weather? So on our secret segment in November, we talked about blizzard prep, and that's not, we're fine. There's not a blizzard here, but how are you handling the transition into the frigid months?
I don't like it. I have now gone into almost full blanket mode, and especially, working from home, basically from the time I get up, I get a throw blanket and I kind of snuggle up in it no matter where I'm sitting. To the time I go to bed, there is a throw blanket everywhere I go. Full stop. If I go outside, then obviously no, then I'm bundled.
And that's a big if.
Yeah, I don't really, once it goes below 35 degrees, me going outside, unless I absolutely have to, is a giant question mark. I hate it.
Yeah, I'm running into a significant issue, which I know Techtic can sympathize with, because a couple weeks ago maybe, Techtic came to me with a quandary, which is, I'm going to see if I get this right, Techtic, correct me if I'm wrong about any of it. But
waterproof slippers, right?
Yeah, yep. You needed some waterproof slippers to go outside, to walk your dog, because when it snows and you have regular slippers...
Let me tell you, this is the best purchase of my life. And if you asked me first, how am I living with this cold weather, I was going to bring up those slippers.
So did you buy the ones that and it's okay if you didn't, but did you buy the ones that I picked out for you?
I did.
I did pick out slippers. Okay.
They're a little pricey, but my goodness gracious. And if you guys want to know what slippers I'm referring to, I will post them on the Twitterverse. But
oh, baby, this is a hot scoop.
But they are they are a little pricey. They're LL Bean waterproof slippers, and I wear them all the time whenever I'm going outside. The snow doesn't faze me. I mean, I'm not trekking in deep snow, but if it's raining and it's like a dusting or that, I am totally fine, and I am warm, and I am cozy, and I am dry.
Now, are you, generally speaking, an indoor slipper person?
No.
So me neither. So I've run into a situation where my slip-on, take the dog for a walk situation was mesh sneakers, which works great until it snows. So I'm in the same situation that you were in, and I'm also considering. I switched to slippers thinking that might help.
Please buy the same pair. Let's make this a thing.
Will be slipper
pails.
I'm trying to think of a slipper.
You can't get the same color.
I was trying to think of something.
You got to get a different color.
What color? Well, you got the cool color. I remember.
Yeah, I got the blue and tan.
Get this color because it was cool.
I thought there was an orange one that you were really hot on.
He was hot and bothered by it.
I was not. I was not hot nor bothered. I think I liked them in passing. I'll have to revisit it, but. That's what I'm currently going through. That is now there's snow on the ground and my dog still needs to go outside to use the bathroom, which is just profoundly inconvenient, as you know. And my slippers get wet, and then my socks get wet, and then my life is ruined. So I'm currently working through that. But we have the Christmas decorations up, which we live in an apartment, so it's a pretty minimal affair for us, which relative to I think what you guys do, which is a little bit more involved. But it's getting Christmassy. I think next weekend we're getting a tree. And I think I mentioned to you guys we're getting a real tree. It's going to be all sorts of piney flavored, piney scented up in our apartment. So that's a lot to be excited for. But yeah, it is getting colder. Everybody stay bundled up and look into LL Bean's outdoor slippers. Not a sponsor. Okay, so we can dive in. I want to start with Mass Effect for reasons that I think are obvious. But so this Mass Effect news is coming out kind of on the heels of another Prime Video debut, which is The Wheel of Time, which I believe we talked about this on the podcast a number of weeks ago at this point, because now it's already out. But Amazon Prime Video has stated that this is, so I'll give the direct quote from Amazon Studios head Jennifer Salk, what she told Deadline, which is, quote, "We can firmly say that Wheel of Time was the most watched series premiere of the year and one of the top 5 series launches of all time for Prime Video," end quote. Before we get into the Mass Effect stuff, so Prime Video is one of the many, and I have not watched any Wheel of Time, by the way. I don't know if you guys have tried it. I have not watched it.
No, haven't tried it yet.
What is the deal with streaming services not releasing viewership data? Because Prime Video is the latest of all the streaming companies, basically. They don't say, like, Netflix gives you a top 10, but I don't even know how founded that is, or if it's just what they want you to think is the top 10. Like, they for reasons don't really release their viewership data.
I gotta wonder if it's so that when they're pitching for new properties, if that information isn't public, then a potential new suitor might not be able to compare Hulu versus Netflix versus Prime and be like,
gives them leverage.
Yeah, like I would get more views if I go to Netflix just inherently because Netflix get more views. You know what I mean?
That's a reasonable thought and really tamps down the question that I had, which is good. I was, it's not like I wasn't looking for an answer. But, Mass Effect. So Amazon Studios is nearing a deal to develop a series based on the best-selling sci-fi video game franchise from Electronic Arts. Now, we talked about this. I don't remember if we talked about this on the podcast, but I sent you, both of you, but, I sent it to both of you, but it was predominantly for Nerdbomber's benefit. There's a YouTuber that I follow, and I'll plug him, Lessons from the Screenplay. And I can't remember the guy's last name. His name is Michael something. And he runs a channel called Lessons from the Screenplay. And he did a whole video essay about how and why Mass Effect could be the next big thing. I think the comparison he directly drew was Game of Thrones. Because there is a vacuum, right, in television where it's kind of sci-fi epics with a lot of characters.
There's not a lot of them.
There's a void. Yeah, like there's like sci-fi shows. Like The Expanse, I think, is one of the, but no one takes those as seriously as, say, a Game of Thrones. And Mass Effect has kind of always been viewed by us, and I think by a lot of people, as having the scope and having the dramatic gravity to it to be something like a Game of Thrones that a major studio and a major channel like HBO or Amazon or whatever, Netflix, could pick up and turn into a big deal. So, this is theoretically the first step towards that.
I I really hope they see this through, because I think, as we saw with the hype when, the Mass Effect remaster came out recently, the Legendary Edition, there is still a big audience for Mass Effect. It kind of went even beyond the normal gamer audience, because I think people even outside of your average gaming nerds have heard of Mass Effect to some capacity. And like you said, there's just so much good content. The characters are well written. And because with the video games, like Mass Effect is one of those games where, there's a big codex. You pick up different items and different collectibles, and you can pick up things. And they've written the backstories for characters. They've written the lore behind the world of Mass Effect. So even what you see on the surface as you're playing the game, there's so much more if you dig down deep. There's novelizations. Illeagle, you actually sent me a novel last year for Christmas, which was amazing.
Sure is shooting.
And, it's just, there's so much to mine here. And I think stuff like, Wheel of Time and The Expanse, and I think another one is The Foundation, that did it already come out on Apple TV Plus, or is it about to come out?
I think it already came out, but that's a really good question that I can Google right now. Wheel of Time is not sci-fi. I don't put that in the same.
Those are more like high fantasy. And I know Game of Thrones is high fantasy, but they're almost kind of like when we were talking about Dune, they're a little bit more focused, I think, on the overarching politics. And I feel like with Game of Thrones, and maybe I'm just talking out of my butt because I haven't watched The Foundation or read anything about The Foundation or Wheel of Time. So
Foundation, and it's just Foundation, by the way.
Okay.
We're misnaming it, but it's been going since late September, and it was renewed for a second season, so it's doing well.
Okay. But I feel like Mass Effect has the emphasis on characters that I'm not sure that a lot of the other high fantasy, high sci-fi series do. And the emphasis on a big cast of characters, kind of like Game of Thrones.
And the other benefit about this world is that it gets people who are not gamers into it. This is a fantasy world that can very much entice just sci-fi buffs that don't play video games.
Right. And we've talked about this in the past of, there's an element here similar to the Last of Us TV series that's being made. It's who even benefits more from this? Presumably, it is the television studios, whoever's producing it, the streaming studio. But like the creators of the game, EA in the case of Mass Effect, Sony in the case of Last of Us, like they benefit greatly because, like you said, they potentially draw in new audiences. So it's kind of a win-win. And I agree with the emphasis on character, that being absent from a lot of sci-fi series. And Westworld was another one that I think came very close to breaking, and some people would argue that it did kind of do what we would think Mass Effect would do, where it's this very character-driven sci-fi epic show. But isn't it already over, or is it still going on? It had a spike in popularity that I think has since gone away.
Yeah,
and
I think so.
Mass Effect would have more staying power.
The question
that. I could be wrong.
I posed to you, because that YouTuber and who you were mentioning before, he actually supposedly wrote an entire script. And what I would really love is, because the video, and I know we're not getting paid, this is not like an advertisement for this channel, but I was actually very impressed when I was watching it.
Oh, it's it's a great channel. Definitely check the channel out if you're,
and
lessons from the screenplay.
He went so in depth and dissected the game and the script and the characters and the story and the lore, and he put together a script at the end. And obviously, like, I haven't read the script, but just from watching the video, the dedication that he seems to have for the game and understanding, the intent of the story and the themes and the plot devices being used in the game and how that could translate well to the screen. I really I want this guy to get a shot. I want to see him have a crack at it.
Well, and another thing from this video, I remember very specifically, because a lot of people are calling for a female shepherd, and he pitched. Do you remember who he pitched as the shepherd?
I don't remember now.
He kind of used as an example of why she would be great the movie Edge of Tomorrow, which is Tom Cruise and Emily Blunt.
Oh,
and he said Emily Blunt would be an amazing female shepherd. And he kind of
Charlize Theron.
No, I don't
know.
I agree.
Emily
with
Blunt,
Emily
I think, was really good. And so he kind of pitched that. And it's a great video. You should check it out. Check out his channel. But yeah, I think, and he also goes through and lays out in a lot more structured of a way than we are of why this should happen and why it's crazy that it has not happened yet. But, it sounds like it is happening. Amazon has, I don't want to say bigger fish to fry, but they have Lord of the Rings coming down the pipe for 2022. So presumably Mass Effect would be a little ways out. I mean, they haven't even, it sounds like they're approaching a deal, but they haven't actually finalized a deal for it yet. It's a deal that this is a really good idea. And they clearly agree as well. This is the sort of thing where I don't think it's going too far to say it's only a matter of time. But whether they do it right, and candidates for Shepherd is something else that is probably deserving of an entire segment. Who else besides Emily Blunt? Is Emily Blunt the perfect candidate? Charlize Theron, I know, Techtic you mentioned. There's probably a lot of really strong candidates. I feel less than qualified to lead that discussion, having not played the games yet.
I do hope they go with the female shepherd. I think that FemShep definitely resonated with so many people, and not that, having the male shepherd would be bad. I'm sure the show would still be great, but I just think that it would definitely bring a unique perspective, especially when you think of space epics. Typically the lead space commando guy in all of the movies, and I'm trying to think, what was that movie that just came out with Chris Pratt and Yvonne Strahovski?
Tomorrow War.
Yeah, Tomorrow War. They're always dudes, so I think it would be just interesting to see a female lead, especially since the character is so well written.
And I think you run much more of a risk as a writer. If you're trying to write this space commander character, if you're writing a man, you're going to wind up with a space commander that's like every other space commander, right? And I think FemShep gives you the opportunity to skirt that, avoid that, whatever the word may be, and I think that has value. So we'll have to wait and see. But in the meantime, and I'll plug his channel one last time. Lessons from the Screenplay does an amazing video about this and how good this could be. I need to play the Legendary Edition. I need to get and play the Legendary Edition. That's rising up the ranks of my to-do list video game wise, especially now that I am a PS5 owner. Granted, it's on PS4, but still, I need to get that going. So let's stay in video games. I mean, not really an option. We kind of have to stay in video games. Let's talk about the potential possibility of a Marvel MMO. So the developer of DC Universe Online, I don't know what either of your familiarity is with that. Dimensional Ink Studios is working on a Marvel MMO helmed and led by Jack Emmert, who designed City of Heroes. And it's currently, as I said, leading DC Universe Online. So, Techtic, you gave an ominous chuckle that leads me to believe you do have familiarity with DC Universe Online. So, yeah, I'll let you kind of kick us off here. What are your feelings about this?
So there was a time where I had to choose between studying and passing a physics exam or just playing DC Universe Online. And needless to say, I leveled up pretty significantly that week. And so this game is absolutely fantastic. I played it. I still pop on from time to time, not as much as I used to. But one of the things that I always kind of wondered what they can do with is by simply skinning it over to Marvel. And if that's all they do is just transfer over skins, say Superman's movement abilities will be transferred to Iron Man. Hulk will be transferred from the Beast movement. Flash, probably Quicksilver or someone like that. This game is great. And then you can add also moving characters like Spider-Man, which is a whole new type of character that we haven't been introduced yet. And it's great. So if you don't know what this game is,
right,
what it is you have all of these superheroes as sort of their base characteristics. And you pick and choose various movement types, abilities, and things like that to create your own custom character. So yeah, you can have your own DC character, guys, if you didn't know that.
Okay. That's what I was getting at was how is it an MMO, or what I was going to ask is how is it an MMO if you're just playing as Superman and there's 100 other people playing as Superman, or more like
no, Superman is a movement style. Then there's like a beast movement style. There's a speed movement style. There's a couple other ones since they've expanded, since I've kind of fell off the wagon of playing that game due to adult constraints.
So then would a Marvel MMO, I mean, I guess a reskin would be a starting point, is what you're saying.
Yeah, and it would be an awesome starting point because there's abilities like Spider-Man. Spider-Man's got a huge fan base, and that alone would probably get a bunch of people making their own very special web crawlers.
Right. There's a lot of potential here, and these MMOs, there's a specific, I think, it's like a specific genre of games. This article I have in front of me from IGN also mentions the Lord of the Rings Online, which is incidentally going to be getting, an upgrade to its visuals in anticipation of the Amazon Lord of the Rings series release, which we just talked about. So I think MMOs that tie into major franchises like this, it's a very unique space. And the fact that Marvel doesn't yet have one seems suspect. Like it's just it sounds like one happened or was happening, Marvel Universe Online in 2006, and then it died. Microsoft canceled it in 2008. So it's just like it's weird to think it was canceled in 2008, and guess when Iron Man came out. So like the timing there is pretty goofy, but it's long overdue, I would think.
So what would you pick? A movement character similar to Iron Man or Spider-Man?
Yeah, Iron Man. There's just more freedom. Spider-Man, and there's memes about this, right? Of like, if Spider-Man's not in a city, there's a car commercial that currently exists about this, where like Spider-Man goes outside and shoots a web, and it shoots nowhere because he's not in a city with tall buildings, so he can't move around the way he usually can. Whereas Iron Man, just as long as the suit's charged, you're good to go. So I would definitely choose Iron Man.
I feel like
Iron Man's not without its weaknesses, but yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I still would maybe want Spider-Man because at the end of the day, like, okay, your movement's restricted, but imagine like getting hurt and stuff. And I know Iron Man has the suit and everything, but you always see in the movies Tony Stark is getting like battered in his suit.
So you want to be
like
Hulk then?
Well, no, but like Spider-Man, even though he gets like thrown around a lot, he has like the super fast healing and all that kind of stuff. So there's merit to that, even though you can't be swinging around.
Well, and it's also worth noting that like
I don't want to be Hulk because Hulk is ugly. No offense, Hulk. I don't want to be green.
Wow.
Make your own Hulk. Make him or her blue.
Purple Hulk. I think there's, I'm thinking about playing the Spider-Man games and swinging around and how just immensely satisfying that is. And like, there is not really a successful video game Iron Man. Is that fair to say? Like, Iron Man VR is like pretty good, but like, there was a movie tie-in back in like '08 that I played the demo for on the Xbox 360, and I was like, man, how did they get this so wrong? Like, it seems like it's just hard in a video game world, I guess, to fully flesh that out. Whereas Spider-Man, I think because there's this limitation of how he moves and what he needs, it just makes a little bit more sense. So I might go back on my previous answer. if I'm choosing in real life how I would want to
I'm
move,
doing
I would
Hulk.
choose Iron Man. But, well, Hulk, that's kind of a cheap answer.
He can
there,
bound
I said it.
literally across miles.
Isn't like the only character who's like theoretically stronger than the Hulk? There's like a handful. There's like Thanos. I think Doctor
Thanos
Strange
isn't stronger than the Hulk. He just has to get angry enough.
Well, I mean,
What
does that even mean?
The Hulk is limitless, theoretically. The angrier he gets, the stronger he gets, and there is no limit to that strength.
I mean, picking the Hulk is a cop out. I'm standing by that. But yeah, I mean, this is really cool. I never did the MMO thing. Like even whatever your definition of MMO is, or whatever you want it to be, because like the most popular MMO ever,
World of Warcraft. You never
is
played
World of
that?
Warcraft, right? Never did. I had a little brother who I think he had a legitimate problem. Like we never owned the game. He would like download this demo thing where you can only go up to level 25, and then he would just do it over and over again, just to not buy the game or whatever. I don't know how it worked, but it looked ridiculous. It's not my thing. I mean, you guys know I have a hard time with RPGs, and like MMOs are basically just RPGs, but massively multiplayer and online. So not my cup of tea, but like it does seem silly that there is not a Marvel one, or really any major media franchise I feel like should have one. So Nerdbomber, are you an MMOer?
I've dabbled. I used to be really into them when I was younger. I think like more when I was a PC gamer. I played a few MMOs, but I never really got super into them because again, it was just like very addicting and time sink. And I always felt like for me, especially like I need to accomplish something, and not that you're not accomplishing something in an MMO, but there's no like end goal in sight. And
exactly. You can level up forever.
Yeah. And I think that's part of my problem with like, I don't know, any kind of looter shooter that's like everlasting.
It's about playing with friends. It's not about end goals.
Well, yeah, but there's also like another one of the big issues that I had when I did play MMOs. The friends that I would play with, they were either it's all or nothing. I'm a middle ground gamer where I don't game like 24/7, but I also game more than like every other weekend, like I'm a pretty regular gamer, but I don't dedicate all evening until 3 a.m. to it. So then the people who would be available to play would be the people who would be like eons ahead of me in terms of their level. And then I would feel bad because they'd either have to like pick a throwaway character so that they could play with me at the lower levels, or I would just be dragging them down. And then when I would find other people who weren't that intense, then they never wanted to play consistently. So it's just like, meh.
Yeah.
It's hard, especially, and this is probably like a thing that not everybody can relate to, but like, I don't like putting my mic on with people that I don't know. I feel like I have very bad experiences trying to like get into a lobby and talk to strangers on the internet. I feel like that's probably not that unique of an experience for girls in gaming, but it's like, it's just not a fun time. So I can't even like find strangers to link up with and play.
I've just never like, and this could be a super unpopular opinion, but like the closest I ever got to that was like being in Call of Duty lobbies and like hearing people talking to each other and like having a headset, but just not talking, just like listening. But like, I can't really imagine. I've never felt the urge to strike up a conversation with somebody. I know so many people who have made friends that way, but like, I don't know. For me, it's more like, I'll see what people I already know with what their games, what their gaming habits are, what games they're playing that I might be interested in. I mean, I played Destiny for a while with Firestorm 501, who used to be on our older podcast. And, that was the closest I came to an MMO experience. And it was fun because I was playing with him who I knew. And like you said before, Nerdbomber, I think he kind of downshifted. He was super into Destiny. It was ridiculous. So like when I first started, he kind of like came down to my level and just kind of like goofed around while I tried to level up and catch up. And I never did. And you never can, because you're always, like you said, there's no end point, right? So it's a weird dynamic. If MMOs, I think, kind of encourage people to get in on the ground floor right away and just hit the ground running so that you're not left behind and you're not starting late, so you don't feel that.
I got introduced to MMOs at a young age with Maple Story, if any of you guys recall that one. The community was with people that were way higher levels than I, were very welcoming and would show me the way and take me into places that I would have had to grind for a really long time to get to, and I got to kind of take the express flight to see all these different worlds. And it's that community that allows people who didn't get in on the ground floor to get in.
Maple Story is not made up. It's real. I Googled it. They're having a Black Friday sale. Yeah, no, I don't know. It's just a genre that, if we've affirmed anything here, it's that it's not for Nerdbomber and I.
I wish it was, and I've wanted it to be. It's just finding people to play with is difficult. Also,
yeah, see, I
will bring another issue up, and this is kind of an offshoot, but Techtic and I were actually, we talked about playing Cuphead last week, and one of the issues that we keep running into is that there's no split screen, period. Like, no new games are coming out with split screen. And so when we find a game that we could be like, oh, this is great, we'll play together because, we're obviously on the same schedule and we can obviously level pace each other. This will be great. We need 2 consoles and 2 TVs, and that's just so much work.
Yeah, no, it's well, we talked about this on the podcast 100 times too, but it's a tragedy. It continues to be a tragedy. And hey, Marvel MMO, listen up. This is maybe make a split screen MMO. I don't even know how possible that is, but it seems like it should be perfectly possible. So give it a whirl and get back to us. There is no release date on this, on Marvel MMO. I would think we're talking about 2023 at this point, but again, nothing super listed at this point. So we'll hit you back on that. Let us know. Hit us up on Twitter at OnlineWarriors1, at OW Illeagle86, at OW Techtic, at OW Nerdbomber. What Marvel MMO character do you want to play, or what characteristics do you want to synthesize from all the Marvel superheroes to create your superhero? And also, what do you think of MMOs? Hit us up and let's have a conversation. So now it is that time where we take an ad break. Before we do, it is that time where we shout out our fantastic Patreon producer, Mr. Stephen Keller. Stephen, thank you so much for continuing to support the show, and thank you so much for making the smart decision to get your hands on all that extra Online Warriors content that the rest of you are missing out on. So Stephen is a night level supporter on our Patreon. He gets this producer shout out. He gets access to the monthly secret segment and vlog. He gets input into our weekly game segment, and he of course gets the occasional guest spot as well. There's also a Squire level of support, which gets anyone who does it access to the monthly secret segment and vlog. And there is also a Stalwart and Noble page, which they get access to the monthly secret segment. So for details on all of those levels of support, you can head over to patreon.com/onlinewarriorspodcast. Check us out there. We appreciate any help keeping the computers running and keeping this podcast coming into your ears. So yeah, thanks again to Steven, and we'll take a short break now to shout out a sponsor who also helps us keep this going, and we'll be back to talk about Harmonix.
If you're looking for ways to skip the trip to the post office and dodge all that hectic holiday shopping traffic, why not save time and money with Stamps.com? Stamps.com lets you compare rates, print labels, and access exclusive discounts on UPS and USPS services all year long. It just makes sense, especially if your business sends more mail-in packages during the holidays. Whether you're selling online, running an office or side hustle, or even just sending Christmas gifts, Stamps.com can save you so much time, money, and stress during the holidays. You can access all of the post office and UPS shipping services you need without taking the trip. And you can get discounts you can't find anywhere else, like up to 40% off USPS rates and 76% off UPS. Going to the post office instead of using Stamps.com is kind of like taking the stairs instead of the elevator. Just going up a couple of floors? Sure, take the stairs. But if you're walking up 30 flights a day, you could use a break. If you spend more than a few minutes a week dealing with mail and shipping, Stamps.com is a lifesaver. You'll save so much time and money, you'll wonder why you didn't start sooner. Over the last few weeks, especially as my holiday shopping has been ramping up, I've been looking at all of my packages that I didn't get to send directly to all of the people that I'm gifting who are out of town, and I was just kicking myself. I was like, how am I going to take care of this? I'm going to have to make so many trips to the post office, and Stamps.com has come in clutch, helping to save my time and money getting those gifts shipped out to all of my friends and family. You can save time and money yourself this holiday season with Stamps.com. Sign up with promo code POD, that's POD, for a special offer that includes a 4-week trial, free postage, and a digital scale. There's no long-term commitments or contracts. Again, just go to Stamps.com, click the microphone at the top of the page, and enter code POD. And thank you again to Stamps.com for sponsoring this week's episode. We really appreciate it. And now, let's get back to the show.
Hello, we are the Black Tower Podcast, a Wheel of Time podcast.
I am Josh, your Sorovan Mahale.
I'm Daniel, your Amin Khan Mahale.
And I am Andrew, your Bajan Mahale.
Every week we have full spoiler discussions about Robert Jordan's epic fantasy series, The Wheel of Time.
Themes, characters, cultures, the TV show, nothing is off limits. If it's The Wheel of Time, we're talking about it.
New episodes drop every Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, so check out our website, blacktowerpod.com, to find our socials, episodes, merch, and Patreon.
All right. So, Fortnite. We're back to Fortnite. Look, we're a gaming and pop culture podcast, and that's bound to happen now and again. Epic Games, the creator of Fortnite, has bought Harmonix, and if you don't know who Harmonix is, they developed Rock Band. Rock Band is not going away, Harmonix says, nor is their new game, which is called Fuser, which I admittedly know very little about, but it came out last year. They also are behind the Dance Central series of music games, basically. And Epic Games has acquired them, which, on paper, I think is a very, very sensible match. We all know the Fortnite dances. The Fortnite dances need music. I think we overlook, especially as people who don't really play Fortnite, we overlook kind of the close ties between Fortnite and music. I didn't know before reading this article, Fortnite has virtual concerts. They've had musical events, virtual concerts featuring Ariana Grande, Travis Scott, who I think currently is going through a PR nightmare right now, and Marshmello. And, again, it's just, I think it makes a lot of sense. Epic Games is currently in an absolute buy everything mode. They bought the Fall Guys studio earlier this year, Mediatonic. They bought a mall, which again, I don't know why they bought it, but they're just buying a lot of stuff. They're expanding, which makes perfect sense. They're still probably the most popular game around, besides maybe like Minecraft. So this makes sense. I'm a little worried about Rock Band. Not that I'm a Rock Band player, but I'm actually also kind of sad that like Rock Band, I think, kind of faded out, and like Guitar Hero faded out, and all those games faded out when I think they were really, really cool. So it would be cool if Fortnite and Epic Games found a way to bring that sort of gameplay back. Beat Saber tried to do that, and some would argue successfully, but, the VR barrier to entry is pretty steep. So I don't know. I mean, where are you guys at on this? None of us are Fortnite players, so we don't have a horse in that race, but what does this mean for Harmonix? And as much as they say Rock Band is fine, everything's going to be fine, do they have the bandwidth for putting out Rock Band games that are not just direct Fortnite, expansion content?
I think specifically what this has merit for is with respect to Harmonix working into the metaverse and having the financial backing to do so effectively.
The metaverse. We're back to the metaverse. So how does the metaverse tie into Fortnite? Did I miss that?
Well, I think in the long run, and I was a little shocked when I saw metaverse on here too. And Techtic, I don't know if this is where you're going, but I think in the long run, they're probably planning, having some kind of VR presence, especially with Meta making this push. I mean, they're basically, there's a lot going on behind the scenes with Meta and Oculus, which is now not being called Oculus. I forgot. Are they just calling it Meta VR? But like, they're obviously making a concerted effort to make a push into VR and making that a big way that we interact with people. And so I understand Fortnite trying to like kind of get ahead of that, because I mean, the concerts were a good first step. I mean, obviously it's not quite the same though when you're on your couch watching it on a flat screen. So it'll be a little bit more immersive.
And you can play along with them.
Right. If you're in a VR area. So I get them wanting more manpower to make their musical presence better, especially if this is like a direction that they definitely know they want to go in. They want to expand what Fortnite is. So it's not just a game, it's more of a experience and a place to hang out. It's sad to me because Harmonix was always one of those studios. They weren't necessarily big budget games. They weren't games that, especially in today's day and age, people weren't running out to buy Fuser. People weren't running out to, by old, like I think they're still working on Rock Band 4, which came out, it feels like ages ago. And they're still, to their credit, putting out new DLC and content for it. But it's not a console seller anymore. I don't know if people would even want to play that anymore, but it still makes me sad. I feel like, I don't know about you guys, but I have so many fond memories of playing Rock Band. Like
For me, it's Guitar Hero, but
well, there was like that, because Guitar Hero was kind of more of a solo or duo experience, but Rock Band, you got to have like 4 or 5 people together. And I just remember it was like a cultural, I always use the word cultural zeitgeist, but it kind of felt like it was for...
it's like a touchstone, yeah.
Yeah.
Plus, it's
Rock
everyone
Band had
remembers
the better
playing
drum
Rock Band
set.
once.
There, I said it.
Well, yeah, so yeah, Guitar Hero did come out, they did try to match the Rock Band thing where they had a drum set that, was not as good. Yeah, cultural touchstone, cultural zeitgeist, that whole thing. There was a period of years where if you were at a party or a get together, it was there and you tried it.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And it was fun because it was it was a good way to get people involved in video games. So that wasn't really directly a video game. It was more like, hey, let's pretend we're in a rock band. And yeah, the thought of losing that is definitely not the best. But what I'm sitting over here thinking about is, was there anyone else who should have or would have or wanted to buy Harmonix? Because I'm sitting here thinking about how, Harmonix also has the Dance Central series and how they're totally focused on these rhythm-based games, right? It just, like TikTok dancing. Don't you think TikTok should buy Harmonix? Like, shouldn't they have bought Harmonix? Doesn't that make more sense? Or am I just crazy here?
Yeah, but I just wonder how they
TikTok
would.
dances are a big thing.
TikTok doesn't have a game element to it for the most part, and I don't know how Harmonix
could it.
That's fair, honestly.
Yeah, like and maybe that's totally barking up the wrong tree, but I'm thinking about how this fits into Fortnite, and to me that's a little bit less clear than something like TikTok that is fully, music is already so ingrained into it, and to be fair, it sounds like music is very ingrained into Fortnite as well, but like it's just to a lesser extent, I think. I don't know. For all I know, there was never anything that was even remotely considered by anybody. And they'll steal our idea now, or my idea now. But I think this is an interesting collaboration, again, just because, I learned a lot about just how, into the music thing Fortnite is getting, and I think that's really cool. But yeah, I guess pour one out for the old school Guitar Hero Rock Band experiences, because those may be on their way out. And we're all the worse for it. I think there was something very communal about that, and maybe Fortnite will find a way to revive it. But
what was the best memory you have of those old school physical rhythm games? I'll call it, because there's still
Sleepovers. It was always sleepovers.
But like, is there like a specific song that you remember like going all out for?
I was a big fan of Carry On My Wayward Son, which I think was in Guitar Hero 2. Playing that in like duo mode or whatever you wanted to call it. That's one of the songs. There were, at one point I went on a school trip with some friends, and we were high school kids, and we had a hotel room, and one of the kids brought his Xbox 360 and the Guitar Hero 2, and like it was a little sad actually, because we were in a new city that we could have like gone out and explored and done things, and instead we played Guitar Hero like crazy for like a week. But yeah, Carry On My Wayward Son was a big one for me, but it sounds like you have a very specific singular experience.
My friends in high school, we played Guitar Hero like on the reg. We were playing guitar because like that was kind of our thing. Like we'd all hang out, and it would be like we'd be able to phase in and out and kind of rotate who was playing, but then there would just be like something that we would have on in the background where we're all like talking or eating pizza or whatever. And a specific memory that I have is we watched I Love You Man, and if you're not familiar with that movie, you should watch
movie.
it. But one of the big things in that movie was, they were obsessed with Rush. And so my friend downloaded Rush songs for Rock Band, and that was like what consumed us, perfecting the Rush songs on Rock Band at like the hardest difficulty for probably like 2 weeks. And it was so much fun.
Tom Sawyer, absolute jam, by the way. Also like the only Rush song that I know, pretty much, but a really good song. Yeah, so we'll have to see about what happens to Harmonix here, but big news for Epic Games. Epic Games continues to expand, and that's not going to be stopping anytime soon. We're headed into What Are You Up To Wednesday. We need to find out what we've all been up to. I will say it has been a slow week for me. And I think maybe a slow week for all of us in the sense that it was a holiday weekend. So there was a lot of my time tied into that. But I do want to shout out a couple of things. The first being I've exited the Fitbit ecosystem. My Fitbit, shout out to Fitbit. You guys suck.
Wow.
Not a fan. I got a Fitbit and I was really happy with it for about a year and a month, which, not coincidentally, I imagine is right after the warranty expired. It started draining battery super fast and the screen started fading, and I contacted them and they told me to go piss up a rope. So I didn't do that, and instead I said I'm going to not have a Fitbit anymore. And so I purchased a Fossil Hybrid HR smartwatch. This is a smartwatch, and the HR stands for heart rate, so it does all the fitness tracking that Fitbit does. But additionally, what it is it has actually mechanical hands, so it looks like a regular watch. And the background of the watch, like the face of the watch, is e-ink, like a Kindle. So it still displays smartphone notifications. It still vibrates when someone sends me a Snapchat or whatever. And I see on my watch, on that e-ink background, what the notification is. So kind of best of both worlds. It also has like a multi-week battery life. So far, super, super stoked about it. Super happy with it. Can't recommend it enough. But granted, I've only had it for about 4 days. So I guess I can field Twitter questions and continue to update people on my experience with it, but so far very positive. The other thing I want to talk about, anyone who knows me knows that there's a genre of movies that I really appreciate. Christmas movies being one genre that I really appreciate. Romantic comedies being a genre of movie I also very much appreciate. Put those two genres together and have them have a baby.
Did you watch Hallmark?
No. Throw Jack Black in there.
Oh, The Holiday.
The Holiday. I watched The Holiday for the first time.
You hadn't watched it yet?
What a delight. What an absolute joy it was. Have you seen it?
Oh, yeah. I saw that in theaters back in the day.
It's leaving Netflix. But unfortunately, by the time this episode airs, it will be off Netflix. We watched it because it's leaving Netflix November 30th. But, oh my goodness. It's just, and by the way, Hayes, I watched it with my fiance, Hayes. She did not like it. She doesn't go in for the rom-coms too much. I do because I check my intelligence at the door.
And you said it's no longer on Netflix?
It's leaving Netflix.
Well, I guess
it's
I'm
leaving
not going to
Netflix
see it anytime soon.
So as of this recording, it's still on Netflix, but by the time this episode airs, it will be off Netflix. It's just, yeah, I don't even know what to say about it. It's just a Christmas rom-com. That's all you really need to know. Kind of like Love Actually, but also a lot more far-fetched than Love Actually is, but in a just delightful way. Kate Winslet, Jack Black. I will say, the one, Jude Law is great. The one downside of the movie, I cannot believe Cameron Diaz was ever actually a famous actress. And like, I don't know if anyone ever considered her a good actress, but she's one of the worst actresses ever. And also, she is like kind of strange to look at.
She's not that bad.
She was so bad in this movie. There were certain scenes that she almost ruined. Luckily, she didn't because the movie was amazing. But I am not a Cameron Diaz fan. The best Cameron Diaz movie is Shrek, and that's because it's only voice acting. But yeah, The Holiday, super great. If you have the means to watch it, that's not Netflix. If you want to like rent it or something, super recommend. Just know what you're getting into. Watch the trailer first, and you'll get a sense of how ridiculous it is. And if you're in the mood for ridiculous, you're gonna love it. So that's my update for the week. And I'll swing it over to my guy Techtic. Techtic, what's life been like for you these days?
All right, so I had finally finished Miles Morales Spider-Man, and it was a good game. The ending was pretty expected. I'm not going to spoil it because Illeagle has not played it yet, but all in all, great game. The other thing that I want to talk about is Nerdbomber and I had watched a movie called 8-Bit Christmas.
Oh yeah, I watched this too. This was not included in my update, but I did watch it.
This is a good movie. If you like a Christmas story, it is the Christmas story for our generation, and it is absolutely fantastic. It has some feels. It's got some. I was laughing and I'm going to get some flack for this, but I thought this movie was better than A Christmas Story.
Yeah, see, that's not correct. But
yeah, that's just
it was fine.
False.
I relate to this better. There wasn't a scenario in which I really wanted a BB gun, but there was a scenario in which I really wanted a console as a kid.
I mean, fair enough, but that doesn't mean it's better than The Christmas Story. That's just...
And it ended with the same thing as me, kids wanting to just build tree forts. That's so good. That's so good.
I will say the Steve Zahn factor is through the roof, and I'm a big Steve Zahn fan. So for me, that was a definite plus. It's
he was
fun.
everyone's
it was a fun
80s
movie.
dad. On the nose.
Yeah, it was a very fun movie. Again, it's not a movie you want to go taking seriously, but it was well done. It was enjoyable. Anything else to pass along here, or is that your?
I'm just gonna brag about Nerdbomber real quick. She made bacon wrap dates. And they
I
were
did do
awesome.
this. They were good.
You should take her on a bacon wrap date. I don't even know what that means. I just thought it might be cool to say.
It probably involves blankets. I would assume.
Well, but bacon, like bacon blankets,
but wrapped, so like burrito, like a blanket burrito.
How long do you think it would take you to weave an entire blanket out of bacon? Because that's what we're talking about here.
Not long.
Probably a while.
Might want to get started. That sounds amazing. I have had a bacon wrap date. I didn't think I was going to like it, and then I did. That's the.
It's an interesting texture profile and taste profile. There's really a good balance of like sweet and savory happening. And then also stuffed it with goat cheese. So like you've got the creaminess. You don't think it would be good, but they all work somehow.
Yeah, I just, I don't really have much of an occasion to eat dates. So I just didn't know what to expect. And I was like, oh, that's okay. That's actually really good. Right on, Nerdbomber. Where are mine?
My mom really loved them, so she ended up, not even kidding, like we left the leftovers of those with her. Actually, most of the leftovers we left with them. We had like a 2-day Thanksgiving extravaganza, and then she got all the leftovers, as she should, as the elder. But she really loved, like she was hounding those things. She loved them. So I signed myself up. I have to make more at Christmas time.
Well, right on. I'll be anxiously waiting. I'm kidding. You don't need to like bring me any, but that sounds awesome.
I'll bring you a single bacon wrap date. No, I'll bring one for Hayes too. 2 bacon wrap dates.
2 single bacon wrap dates. That sounds good. That sounds weird and memorable. So very cool. Do you transitioning to you? What's the scoop from you this week?
So I finally finished, and I don't even remember if I brought up that I was ever reading it, but back before Halloween, I started reading Sleeping Beauties by Stephen King. And it's a big book. It is over 700 pages. So it took me a while to get through. And I finally finished it. This is my second, I have to kind of give myself a little pat on the back. This is my second 700 plus page book that I've finished this year. So look at me, way to go. Usually I stick to like the 300-ish page range or lower. But, I went big or went home, and I didn't, well, I guess I was home when I was reading. But
you were home. Yeah, you were definitely home.
It was big and home. But the book was actually really good. The premise is basically that one day, all of the women in the world, when they fall asleep, they start getting wrapped in cocoons. And they don't wake up. They're just swathed in a cocoon that like comes out of their nose. It's something like it's attached to them. If you try to pull them out of the cocoon, they wake up and they basically attack whoever is disturbing their sleep. And then they go back to sleep. And essentially, the entire world is impacted. Nobody has any idea what's going on. And there's one woman in this small town in Appalachia who, it's kind of mystical, when she gets arrested, like she basically kills a couple people, a couple drug addicts, and then gets arrested, and then is kind of like creepy and mystical. And she is the only woman in the world who does not develop a cocoon and can wake up and sleep as normal. And so,
at will.
Yeah, at will. Thank you. And so the beginning of the book, I will say there's a lot of characters here. I want to say I read somewhere that this book was initially intended to be made as a TV show. And so you can kind of tell because there's like, even the book starts off and there's like a 5-page list of the characters and who they are and stuff like that, full casting list. And there's a lot of different characters that you follow. So the first half of the book is really setting up a little bit of like background information, who these characters are, why you should care about them. And the bulk of the action really doesn't get going until the second half. And I will say, like, initially I was like, okay, this is starting to get a little bit of a slog. Like, I'm in about 350 pages and like, I know my cast now, but like, I need some action here. But then finally the action did pick up. And I will say the back half of the book really took it home. And I was super glad that I read it. I think it's an interesting kind of case study, and this isn't the only book that I've read where it kind of is like a gender study on what happens in society if you either remove or flip gender roles. But it's an interesting case study in like what would happen potentially in the world if women just disappeared and what a man ruled world would look like. And I will say it's a very good read. If you're interested in that kind of thing, or even interested in like mystical, it wasn't super like creepy or anything. I haven't read enough Stephen King, but I feel like, and Illeagle, maybe you can talk on this a little bit, but I feel like Stephen King gets this rap for being like spooky, which is why I started reading it around Halloween.
Right.
And it wasn't really. It was more just like, this is happening, and here's the like political ramifications. But
Stephen King, and there are times when he chooses to lean into that kind of opinion of him, but a lot of his books are not scary as much as they are just fantastical. And it sounds like this is an example of that. The plot actually reminds me of that. We talked about that show, Why the Last Man. It was just kind of the reverse of this, right? Which is, what if there were no more men, basically? But yeah, the character problem you're talking about, where there's a million characters, you're describing why I have never finished The Stand. I've started it about 100 times, have never finished it, because the first part of the book introduces about 50 characters. And oh my goodness, that's, like, I have the same problem, actually. I've started reading The Naked and the Dead, which is a famous Norman Mailer book, a bunch of times, and it has 20 male characters who are all military age men that I can't keep straight. So like it's a problem, and I think it's one that Stephen King commonly runs into, not just in The Stand but in other books.
And I think
way to
King,
surmount it.
Like, he does, a lot of his properties and books do turn into TV shows and movies, so I can't help but think that he's not writing with that in mind a little bit, because these characters on page, their names kind of all blend together, but if they were a specific actor on a screen, you'd be like, oh, okay, that guy is the fireman guy. It wouldn't be like, who's this guy again? Let me go back and look.
I would say on a case-by-case basis that is true, in the sense that there are certain things that he may have a mind for that, and there are other things that he does not. The Stand, I think he did actually have a mind for that when he wrote it, and that's why it eventually did become a TV series. One that I don't think was particularly successful, that just recently came out. But yeah, he's an interesting writer.
But yeah, this was my first big foray into Stephen King. Like, I've dabbled in some of his shorter books, but this was like the first time I sat down and read one of his like epics. And I know they featured the book prominently in season 1 of You, which I think is what made me kind of go back and be like, oh, I've had this sitting on my shelf for a while. I should probably read this. So it was good though. Good read. Recommend.
He can be verbose on occasion, as you just learned from reading a 700-page book that he had a hand in writing. But like, it's worth. He makes it worth it for you a lot. Like 11/22/63 is another Stephen King book that is like 1,000 pages that I read and loved. So I think if someone can take you through a 1,000-page book and keep you happy, it means they're pretty good at writing books.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I mean, it's a stark contrast compared to when I read To Sleep in a Sea of Stars, which that was my other 700-page plus book. And it's one of those things where I felt guilty because it was a book that was gifted to me and I wanted to like it. But by the end, I was just like, I need this to be over. And I did not feel that way about Sleeping Beauties.
And a bit of a less experienced writer there, no doubt. No shade to Chris Paolini. Aragon was awesome, but maybe get some more experience going there. Well, hey, that takes us to quiz time. We made it. Assuming you were done. I don't know if you had something else to...
Yeah, no, I'm mostly done. I am taking Techtic through revisiting 30 Rock because he's never watched it. So in the spirit of that, you've never watched 30 Rock?
Nope.
What?
Tina Fey is a gem. There, I said it.
Never got around to it.
Well, you should, because it's dated now because it came out when, was it 2000? Yeah. I think 2008. I don't know. That's not one of my quiz questions. But
I'll throw it on the pile.
But yeah, you should definitely, it's one of those 30-minute or less shows that you can toss on, and it's kind of like watching The Office or Parks and Rec. Not the same vibe, but like that workplace comedy that is... Yeah,
light comedy kind of, yeah.
So in the spirit of that, I'll transition to the quiz, which is all about Tina Fey.
I love her.
So what we'll do is another Price is Right style quiz, and I have 5 questions and a tiebreaker. Illeagle, you will go first. Actually, no, Techtic will go first because I want him to lose. So
wow, I'll take the advantage.
Biased already off the start. The first question. Tina Fey made history when she became the first female head writer of Saturday Night Live. In what year was she promoted to that position?
2001. No. 1995. Yes.
Boy, I'm going to say 2001. I think you had it. 2001.
And Techtic gets his first point of the game. She was actually promoted to head writer in 1999 when the previous head writer, Adam McKay, stepped down. So, as I said, she became the first female head writer on the show's history.
I knew 2001 was really close, but I felt like it was at risk of busting.
Well, this quiz is garbage, but let's continue.
Hey, you still have time to come back from that. It's okay. So she left Saturday Night Live to go on to create 30 Rock, which we were just talking about. How many episodes of 30 Rock would eventually be created?
A lot. Oh boy. 160.
I believe it's actually 104.
Wow, Techtic is off to a hot start here. Illeagle, you were actually really close, but you busted just by a little bit. There were 139 episodes of 30 Rock.
Yeah, see, this quiz is garbage. Okay.
Well, he busted by just as much as I was away, so.
Yeah, I just wanted him to feel good about himself.
Well, mission not accomplished. All right, so it's 2-0. So my back is already up against the wall here.
Yeah, you have. If you get this next question wrong, you basically lose. But
basically,
try to stay in it. No pressure. But Tina
do my
Fey
best.
made her feature film screenwriting debut with Mean Girls. One of the characters in the movie, Kevin Napor, gives Lindsay Lohan's character his phone number. This is actually one of my favorite questions. What is the sum of all of the digits of that phone number?
Does it include area code?
Yes,
Ooh,
it
good
does.
question. Ooh.
Like one or are we talking 10 digits or 9 digits?
Oh, there's no
How many digits?
There's no country code.
There's no country code.
Okay, so 9 digits. We're talking a 9-digit phone number.
10.
No, 10.
There's 3 in an area code, 3
We're
in the
talking 10
first.
digits.
Yeah. For all of those who are not privy to what's going on in the room, Techtic has whipped out his calculator.
Oh, I go first?
I have also whipped out my calculator. Yes, you go first.
So what is the sum of all 10 digits?
Yes.
Correct.
I'm going to go 63.
Okay. I'm curious how you would have gotten to that number. I'm going to say, so there's a science to mine. I'm going to say 40.
Your science proves to be correct. The sum of all of the digits of the phone number is 49. So you were very close. I want to know, what was your technique?
I very nearly said 50 because I was just taking, so every digit can be 0 through 9, right? What's the middle of that? It's either 4 or 5.
Mm-hmm.
And multiply that by 10. So just basically try and take an average. And I almost went with 50, which would have been heartbreaking.
Sort of what I did was I assumed that 90 is the max that you can go, right? 10 times 9. And so I just subtracted that off because statistically, you're not going to have all 9s.
You subtracted what off?
Just felt like it was going to be mostly numbers higher than 5. So I said, okay, 63.
Okay. This means I stay alive. This is huge. Very exciting. So it's 2-1. There's 2 questions left. Spaces are loaded. What do we got?
In 2010, Tina Fey was awarded the Mark Twain Prize for American Humor, becoming the youngest recipient of the award. How old was she at the time?
And what year was that?
2010.
Who?
The calculators are back out.
She was 40. I don't need a calculator for this. She was 40.
Techtic, don't be Googling.
She was 44.
Illeagle, you are still in it. You hit it right on the nose. She was 40 years old when she won the Mark Twain Prize.
So the secret to my success so far is just guessing 40 on every question. And I stand by that. So it's tied. Oh my gosh, the bases are loaded, guys. It's tied going into the last question.
I swear.
How often does this happen? All right, hit us with it. I get last ups here. This is huge.
You do.
I thought this was a text in.
That's usually
let's make
only...
it one. No, but let's make it one. That's fine.
Let's
you know do this fair and square?
That one of Tina Fey's earliest professional quote-unquote acting gigs was voiceover work on a pinball machine called Medieval Madness. In what year was Medieval Madness released?
Okay, hang on. Okay, my answer is in.
Okay, you both gave me the same year of 1989.
That's unbelievable. Okay, well, what do we do?
We can use my tiebreaker. I guess for now, I'll just tell you the answer to this one, and we'll use the tiebreaker because that has a little bit more of wiggle room, I guess.
Okay.
So, Medieval Madness released in 1997. Nobody got points on that one because it was a tie.
We were quite a ways off.
Yes. So this is now for all the marbles.
Great minds think alike, Techtic.
And if you guys text me the same number again, I will be shocked and stunned.
40. It's 40.
As you may or may not know, Tina Fey wrote an autobiographical comedy book called Bossy Pants, which actually topped the New York Times bestseller list for quite a while. How many pages long is that book?
Can you repeat the question?
How many pages long is Tina?
No, the full question.
Tina Fey wrote an autobiographical comedy book called Bossy Pants, which topped the New York Times bestseller list. How many pages long is the book? And this is a text in.
Well, Techtic asked for needless clarification. I sent you my answer.
You guys suck. You both busted.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you guys a chance to go back and give me another answer, just knowing that you both busted without me giving you the answer. Or
oh wow, that adds a whole other element to this.
Yeah.
Okay, you have a new answer from me.
All right, so I'll give you the old answer and the new answer. Techtic said 340 and then came in with 110 on his second try. Illeagle came in at 289 and then came back with a second answer of 250. 250 won Illeagle the game. The book was 277 pages
I was
long.
so close the first time. I knew I was close. Oh, yeah. Techtic, don't call it a comeback. Actually, I would appreciate it if you called it a comeback. Because it was exactly a comeback.
Great comeback it was.
I'm so mad about the 1989 one because I originally put 1990 and then just backspaced it out.
Should have stuck with your guns, man.
So I moved to 17-4 on the year. Techtic moves to 10-11. Nerdbomber at 12-11. Yeah, we have 3 weeks left? 4 weeks left? I don't know. But still a dead heat. I will be hosting next week, and that's the true test of metal, I feel like, these days with the podcast quiz section. Who comes in second? And who comes in last?
Well,
and who's going to have to do
it's
something?
basically locked in.
Well, with that attitude, it is.
No, I mean,
but yeah,
mathematically, it's locked in.
Well, yeah, because when you win, you host a quiz. So I think you're right. I think if you lose next week, it's over. So I don't know. Go study. Spend the next week
studying everything.
Of your life, just kind of hitting the books. We thank you all for joining us here on the latest episode of the Online Warriors podcast. We encourage you to go to Apple Podcasts, leave us a review, hit us up on our Twitter handles we already mentioned, talk to us about any of the things we discussed on today's show, and get out there and go to the Christmas tree farm and just talk to one of those folks about, the podcast and also about Christmas trees and like varieties of Christmas trees. There's a lot to be learned there, and it's the holidays. So what better time? Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.